Hello, Econ students, and welcome back to another worksheet review. We're in Module 56. So this is AP Microeconomics. So we're in Module 56, which is Unit 4. Module 56 is about long-run costs and the economies of scale. So once again, there is a link to the website. So if you go to our Unit 4 webpage on microeconomics, there is a link there that's already set and ready to go for you for this worksheet. There are 3 worksheets. There's 56.1, 56.2, and then an exit slip. So let's go ahead and dig in here. It says here, using the video that you should have watched up here, it says, explain economies of scale, constant returns of scale, and diseconomies of scale. Well, essentially what we're saying is that if you double your inputs, okay, so if you double your inputs, so if we just talk about inputs, okay, inputs, so if we double them, so it's 2 times. So let's say we have 100 machines and we double it to 200 machines, okay? So if we're in economies of scale, so for the economies of scale, and let's say we were producing, let's say at the given time when we go to double this, our output was I don't know, 1,000 goods, 1,000 goods. Okay. If we have economies of scale and we double the amount of machines, that would mean that in the economies of scale, we would have more than 2,000 goods. Because we doubled our inputs, we would have more than 2,000. So it would be more than, it would be greater than. So let's say it would be an output of, let's say, 3,000 goods. Anything more than double, right? More than double. Okay, that's the economies of scale. Constant returns, constant returns to scale, returns, I'll just use as constant returns. That would mean that if we doubled our machines from 100 to 200 and our output at 100 was 1,000, constant return would mean that we would only have 2,000. So it would exactly be double of our outputs based because we doubled our inputs. Okay. Then if we have the diseconomies of scale, sorry here, oop, man, of scale, that would mean that we doubled our inputs, but we less than doubled our outputs. So our outputs went from 1,000 goods to 1,500 goods. So that would be diseconomies of scale. Okay. That's what we would see happen there. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Okay. Now, number 2 says the long run average total cost curve is made up of what? Long run average total cost curve is made up of what? Long run average total cost curve. The answer would be B. It's that series of short run curves. So if we were to look at something like this here, and we look at price here and output here, when I start my business, I'm making a small quantity. So I'd have that small, it would be closer to the y axis here. But as I start to make more and more products, my average total cost curves are going to start to shift towards the right. Okay. And eventually they'll come up like this. So we'll have the economies of scale here, the constant returns of scale here, and the diseconomy of scales there. So we take those short run average total cost curves and they add up to our long run average total cost curves. Number 3 says when costs decrease as outputs increase, what range are we in the long run average total cost curve? So once again, if this is our long run average total cost curve, this is the long run average total cost curve. It says if we're increasing, so increasing would be going to the right, of our quantity. So if we're increasing, but the cost curves I'm sorry, our costs are decreasing as our output increases. That would mean that we're experiencing the economies of scale. We're here in this part right here. Okay. It says, so that's number three. Number four says if we double our labor and wage costs and our output exactly doubles, what range are we in our long run average total cost curve? So essentially, what we're saying is we are essentially here. We are going from here to here. We've increased here and we're in that constant returns to scale. We're at B right here, constant returns to scale. And then five says if we double our labor and wage costs and our outputs increase by less than double, what range are we in? So once again, we're doubling our inputs. Our inputs are doubling, so it's two times, but our outputs are outputs are less than two times. What area are we in? We're in the diseconomies of scale. We are in this upward part right here. We're in this upward part right there. So that is 56.1. Let's take a look at 56.2. Okay, 56.2. It says, and this is returns to scale. It says, in the long run, it would be A, all inputs can be changed. In the long run, that means that we have all variable costs. Remember, it's only in the short run that we have fixed costs. In the long run, everything can be changed. Therefore, everything's variable cost. So essentially, variable cost is then our total cost in the long run. Okay. Number two says sunk costs. Sunk costs. What are sunk costs? Those are C. That is C. Those are the costs that economists insist should be ignored. Now, they're going to be ignored because essentially economists say it's going to be ignored because we can't recoup these. We can't recoup these. These are gone forever. There's nothing we can do about it. It's sort of like if I spend $10,000 today on shelving units in my store, and let's say 5 years from now I go out of business and I sell the shelves, but I only get $3,000 for those shelves. Well, my sunk cost is what I lost, that $7,000 that I can't recoup because I opened up that store. We can't think about those possible sunk costs. Number three, number three says if the long run average total cost curve is falling, all right, oops, if it's falling, okay, so this is the long run average total cost curve. If it's falling, what are we on? If it's falling, if we're here in this falling, that would be C. The firm is experiencing the economies of scale. We're probably early on in our production. Number four says if the long run average total cost curve is rising, so we're up here, we're in this part, where would we be? We would be at D. We'd be experiencing diseconomies of scale. So once again, economies of scale. So if we look up here, economies of scale are here in the downward. The flatter part is constant returns, and then diseconomies of scale is that upward swing. And then number five says the long run average total cost curve is the relationship between what? That would be B. That would be in a relationship between our output and our average total cost when fixed costs have been chosen to minimize the average total cost of all cost of each level of output. So that answer would be B. That leads us to the final page, which is the exit slip. The exit slip. It says here in the long run, that's A, all costs are variable. 2, it says the curve that shows us the relationship between output and average total cost in the long run. That would be D. That would be the long run average total cost curve. And then number 3 says when long run average total costs declines as outputs increase, the firm is definitely showing what? That would be B, economies of scale. Okay. These questions were pretty easy. Hopefully, it was beneficial. Until next time, have a great day.